Hello, everyone. It's Astro back with some more painting and just chatting. Tonight, I'm hoping to finish getting through my variety of Tyranids. Here, I've got a Winged Tyranid Prime and 3 Von Ryan Leapers. I've also got this little guy that I know came from one of the Age of Sigmar sets, but I need to figure out what kind of color scheme. I wanted to paint him as a cleric to use in D&D at some point. And I've shown these off a little bit. I did a little bit more work off screen, but I figure, you know what? These will be good to finish off tonight if we get time. So yeah, let's get started. Thank you again for joining me. This is just something I do. I enjoy painting, and figure this is a good way to connect with community and whatnot. Set him over here, set these guys over here. Anyway, yeah. Tomorrow, be sure to join me tomorrow for some Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm going to be changing up my schedule a little on Thursdays. I'm kind of a big fan of Critical Role. That's the name of the series. And with campaign 4 starting on Thursday, I might have to do a 4 to 6:30 on that. Get out a little early so I can catch that, at least the first part of that. So be sure to join me for that. Anyway, let's get started. I've got these guys ready to start getting into further detail. So we're going to go ahead and actually start with Bugman's Glow. Get my paint shook up here. Alright. Yep, we'll get some Bugman's Glow on him. Get a little color on Mr. Prime. And I'm going to use, what is that? Oh, that's the new Black Legion contrast that I have. That's Earth Shade. That's Bad and Black. Where is my old bottle of... Hold on a second. Thought I had everything set up properly, but I don't. It's yeah. I'll just pop that open later. Oh, wait, no, here it is. Stored in my extra paints. Yeah, I'll be using Black Legion contrast for... oh, that was dumb luck. And probably needs to be thinned down anyway. Yeah, come on. But yeah, we'll get this Bugman's Glow on the little bits there. I'm thinking I'm going to do a little red, this ball red on some of the claws, because that'll be fun. Put it on my wet palette here. That one's a little off screen, but yeah, we'll get that. And we'll add just a touch of water to it. That way it's thinned down. Okay. Properly thinned down. I'll close that for now. I'll pull it out if I need more. We're just going to lightly go over the wings. I mean, I could use Earth Shade, but the wings are a darker color in general. So that way it makes it look more leathery than the bone white of most of their body. We'll add a very thin layer of my purple color. There it is, my Magos Purple contrast. Just to give it a little more Tyranid vibe. There we are. Yes, turning my Wraithbone white did a wonderful job of becoming a contrast. I think I need to start doing that on some of this. Something I did here was put some of that Wraithbone down on this, and then threw on a set of the color gradient contrast. A little hard to see. There we are. This is, Jetpack in motion, and I got the idea from watching Play on Tabletop. Shout out to those guys. Those guys are awesome. And what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the white scar to kind of, or a little bit of gradient to kind of overlay the color to make it look like the flames are coming from within. And I plan on doing that with all my jump packs units that I have, because that is a really fun little stand I've got. So wet that a little better. There we are. And pick up some of this Bugman's Glow just to get it in all the little recesses there. We'll go back over cleaning up. A little bit more required focus in this part, but that's okay. There we go. Get nice coverage there. All right. But yeah. Again, I'm going to be watching Critical Role after my random game stream, which this week is Dawn of War 3. I'm going to do a few skirmishes, see, normally I do PvE, but I might throw in a PvP game if somebody wants to join me for that. And yeah, tomorrow's Baldur's Gate 3, so we'll be sure to join me for that one. I have a blast with Baldur's Gate 3. There we are. Been looking into picking up some Tyranid models, namely battle suits, because I enjoy the battle suits. Probably need a little more brown Bugman's Glow there. Come on. There we are. Load up the brush. Alright. I probably do eventually need to get new brushes. Or actual mini painting brushes. That'll be next on my shopping list after this batch of gear to help improve streaming quality. There we are. We'll get black on the hooves there. Now, this is where let's get this first, because this is a little trickier. Well, a little less tricky. Get the sinewy bits. And I'll be painting the claws red. Oop. That's okay. We'll just throw a little Wraithbone white on the edge there. And we got to be really, really careful here, because I need to get this just right. Because I want to get into this little spot here. Oop. Accidentally getting a little bit of that claw. That's okay. Again, I'm planning on painting that red. I guess the brown will help give it a little more earthy red coloration. Suppose I should have switched to one of my smaller brushes here. Yeah, I'll come back to that with the smaller brush. We'll get in here. We'll be a little less messy, a little more messy here because A, there's not enough room to really maneuver, even with this brush. B, no one's going to really be looking at the underside of the wing here. And that's a secret I'm slowly learning, is you don't have to be a perfectionist. You just have to make sure you know where to draw the eyes. There we are. I can always come back in later too with a smaller detailing brush to clean up with the Wraithbone White. Nope. There we are. Yeah, I'll come back in with a proper detailing for that. We'll start with the underside here on this wing. And we'll probably come back up to the front. There we go. Go over a light Magos purple, a light amount of Agrax Earthshade. Give it a very earthy feel. Earthy coloration. Leathery, that's what we're looking for. Just for fun. And there's a rule I personally am truly embracing when it comes to painting, especially Warhammer minis. Make it your own. Don't be afraid to just pick a color scheme and run with it. I thought, you know, at first I thought it was like, oh, you got to do it right. Nope, nope, just paint what you want to paint. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now, again, I'm just an amateur enjoying myself, but I wholeheartedly believe in just doing what makes your heart sing, which has been a challenge for me lately, because real life has a way of laughing at what you want to do. Real life says you have bills to pay, you have needs to meet. Get a little more Bugman's glow here. That's okay, because there are times that you must be responsible. There are times that you can let loose. Try and find the times where you can be truly yourself, despite it all. Too much paint there, so we're gonna dump that off. There we are. I have used Bugman's Glow a lot, I've noticed, so we'll wet that. Get a little more water on there. Yeah, I think the Bugman's Glow is starting to go, so we'll probably need to get a new set. A new. There we go. Thin it down just a little bit more because we don't want it to be too thick. There we are. This last little bit of the wing here. And we might as well, with this brush at least, since we already have it nice and loaded, and go over the Von Ryan leapers there. What was that rule from Zombieland? Rule number 33. Enjoy the little things. And in miniature painting, that's kind of literal, because it is a little thing here. Despite it all, we just need to remember one other thing. To love each other. And love is an action, not just a word. Love is active. You help each other through love. You show kindness. You lift each other up. You don't just say, I love you, and then don't help. Look at that. And don't forget, you never know what someone else is going through, so if you make judgments, be open to revising those judgments. You never know. The truth might surprise you. Nothing is black and white. It's all shades of rainbow, not even gray. Because that's life. Life is colorful. Life is great. And terrible. As its up and downs, and is circular. There we go. Doot, doot, doot. Working with the base coat is definitely a mental task because you have to focus a little more on making sure you get all the right spots layered. Like I said, we'll go back over this one with a secondary layer just to kind of clean up and make sure we got all the spots just right. There we go. That's it. Get up here. Yeah, our Tyranid's looking a little more filled in. So we'll set him aside. Pick up the Von Ryan Leaper here. What I'm going to do is paint the underside the Bugman's Glow and then add the red contrast over that. And we'll add, let's see. Yeah, we'll just touch up that little bit. Load up the brush. There we are. Little lore on my proxy army. This is actually something that I've been working on forever. Initially I had the idea, thanks to Starfinder when it first came out, to create or take my fantasy setting I have big events through novelization and stories, as well as a campaign or two, obviously, and fast forward a thousand years. That way, you could have spaceships and awesome battles and space and stuff and exploration. And the idea was that one of the species that was on the planet in the fantasy world only got their technology super advanced, and a prime mission from their king to basically be a neutral force, because they exist in the Astral Sea. Over time, that idea has changed, and the Confederated Systems Alliance exists side along with the initial fantasy story of Vorthera. So Vorthera is a new world on its own, and the human world in the Confederated Systems Alliance is a separate world. Now, I also happen to agree with Brandon Sanderson that humans can come from, or have found their way to various worlds through other means, the Astral Sea in particular in my universe. The Dorzimar are a species born in the Astral Sea. You know what? Let's get the underside of the claws too. Get the underside of the big claw there. And then we'll do a black on the top. Oop. Yeah, we'll just paint over the black top there. They are known as the Children of Fate. They go by many names. Dorzimar, Dathir, Nephilim. But in the Confederated Systems Alliance, their commander, aboard a ship known as the Volvega, travels the Systems Alliance to stop threats from the Astral Sea and exterior forces from interfering. They are kind of a massive policing force, extraplanar policing force, not associated with directly with the Confederated Systems Alliance, though they helped construct the station known as Center, a massive uh, multi-layered kind of ring world hovering around a central core that has, they engineered that, so it's rather impressive. But they've also done, they try their best to do a lot of good work. And in a kind of head canon I have with these proxy models that I've been printing is that these guys are the Dosomar Defense Force. They're a small fleet that got lost in the Astral Sea, jumped dimensions, or universes, more accurately, and ended up in the 40K universe. Of course, none of this is going to be canon because it's my head canon. It's fanfic, combining my own homebrew ideas with just for more narrative playing Warhammer stuff. Yeah, we'll go back over that with purple. It happens. And they use the same stats as Adeptus Astartes, as the Space Marines, but they are more willing to work with Xenos. After all, the Confederated Systems Alliance is a huge population of Xenos. And so that kind of pisses off a few of the Ord Xenos, which can lead to some interesting clashes. So I can definitely see Inquisition going toe-to-toe with my army. And as a just general kind of Warhammer player, casual player, I can also see them getting their butts handed to them a few times. Do I want to do his underside? No. Nah, I don't want to do the underside of the Prime's Claws. I'll do this, though. Alright. Scooch. There we are. And... oop, there he is. There it is. Get the underside here. A little more paint there. For that particular thing, though, I just used the general Space Marines because I really like the Gladius Task Force, which is a... yeah, the ability to change your tactics each round is nice. So it kind of matches how I imagine the Dorzamars. They would be considered psychers as well. So that means that I will include a number of librarians, though I could also try and run them as like Grey Knights and stuff. That's another one down. And like I said, I want to come back to him once I get done with these guys, so that way I can get the rest of the get that second layer on. We'll go over. I'll go over a few bits with a little harder on the Magos Knight purple there, just to give it some flavor. There we are. All right. Get in there, you Bugman's Glow. Hopefully, pretty soon I'll be able to get some more Tau. Like I said, I like their battle suits. I like their lore the best. Despite the ethereals being, their caste system and, the ethereals on top, I like the idea that they're trying their best to be good people in a galaxy of just shit. Honestly, it's just bad all around there, but at least they're trying. And I'm wondering, I have a few few theories on who created the Ethereals, because they didn't really show up until much later after the Horus Heresy, but they were discovered prior by humans during right before the Horus Heresy, which makes me wonder what happened, what caused them to not only evolve so rapidly. They aren't psychers, though Ethereals make me question that. They are an unusual group. We'll need to get some gray on that. Alright, come here, Prime. Let's get the underside of your blades. Come on. There we are. And go back over your wings real quick. I'll get back underneath. There we are. Yep, nice even layer, second layer. Probably need to re-wet get the palette redone. There we are. Just gentle second layer there. The value of pre-shading is not lost on me either. Actually, I prefer to pre-shade, if you couldn't tell. But with Tyranids, it's just a lot easier to base it in a white color and throw the paints on top. Maybe if I based it in a warmer gray and did what I did here for future Tyranid models, it might come out pretty interesting. Alright. Get in there. I might need to re-wet the brush, actually. Oops. Dipped it back. Okay. Re-wet the brush. And gather up a little more of this. There we are. Let's get the underside of the wing here. There we go. Ah, yes. Nice, even coverage. We'll get the smaller detail brush next after laying down the second layer here. Just because I want to get some specific parts. There we go. All right. If I go quiet a few times, it's because I'm partially focusing. Mostly focusing on what I'm painting at the time. Because sometimes you just need to really focus on what you're doing. Come on. Get on there. Okay, I'm probably going to need a little bit more Bugman's Glow before I am done with it. So we'll finish adding this second layer. There we are. There we go. And we'll add this to the underside of his little dagger blade there. That's it, that's it. There we are. And we'll get this smaller brush out. Go into the little body vents there. That's okay. We'll clean that up later. There we are. Alright, just the blades left on him. And then get into the little venti vents. Like a dirty red. Across the blades here. There we go. And we'll add a little more Bugman's Glow to my palette here. Just to have enough to work with. That's it. There we go. Thin it down nicely. Do a quick touch up on these guys here. Oh, I missed a spot here. It's a good thing I'm doing a quick touch up. Oop. That's okay. That happens. Yep. There we are. Just touching up some of the smaller details on this leaper here. That way it's not so thin and splotchy. Come here, you. Since I have the bigger brush. See, there we are. That's it. That's what I was looking. Ah, god dang it. I missed this one as well. That's okay. Nice even layer over this one as well. Haha. Ho ho. That's why you do 2 coats. That way you can go over what you missed. And make sure you double tap. I haven't watched that movie in a hot minute. I should probably watch Zombieland again. It's a goofy movie, but I enjoyed it. Alright. I think that's about it for that. So let's get in there with the vents with a finer brush. And this is an annoyance, but taken care of. Alright. I'm going to take, not this brush, this one. I'll take this brush. Excuse me. Let me get some water. Alright. Now we're gonna wet it a little before we get started. Pick up some of this. we're going to get into the little itty bitty details here with this brown. We'll be going over those vents with and the joints as well with this color. We'll do a light amount of earth shade at the very end. There we are. We'll cover that. There we go. Pick up a little more paint here. We'll get in here with this. And that little corner there, if you can see that. There we go. We'll do the same to the other side. Not exactly the most stable of hands, but again, that's the underside, so we're not as worried about how good those details look. However, I do want to hit the joint back here. Just a little bit of the glow of the bug mountain. There we go. Just to give those joints a nice little bit of detailing. Again, my little secret is don't worry too much about all parts of the model. Focus on the things people will be looking at. And for this one, it's going to be his beautiful front body and wings. See, like right here? See that? Just a little bit breaks up the monotony. Because the joints there will help identify other parts of the creature, of your model, which is why you always try your best to add a little more color to everything. Otherwise, it's just gonna look drab, boring. There we go. And we'll get the underarm here. Not that anyone will be able to see it. I could have skipped it, but honestly, where's the fun in that? We're here to paint. We're here to talk. Get the joint there. And a little bit of the joint there. There we are. And whoop. Why do you have so many joints? Okay. Think that'll be it for the Bugman's glow. Nope. Missing a joint. There we are. Whew. You have a lot of nooks and crannies, sir. It's a tad bit annoying. But only a tad. We still like you. Or at least I do. I don't know if everyone else does. Anyway. That's one. We just need to get some eye color, some red, some black, and some shading done, and some contrasting done. Alright, let's move on to Mr. Von Ryan-Lippe on the end here. Alright. Oh wow, it's already been 45 minutes? You know, it's amazing how much fun you have how much time flies when you're having actual fun, and I'm enjoying this. It does take a little while to get all the nice detailing, and there's someone that talks about this, not here, but in one of the other servers that I'm in for Discord, that it's trimming. That's what it's called. So much trimming. Which Tyranids are notorious for having so much little itty bits of trim. Get in there with the... Oop. A little more. A little more. Come here. That's it. Mix you all up. And... Oop. There we go. Anyway, trimming. Trim. So much trim. So many edges to make sure you get just right. So many little snooks and crannies. This is also why I think contrast paints have become so popular. I mean, I personally love them for just the fact that it's easier for me to use. And if I'm painting a whole army, I don't have to worry too much. But not everyone wants just basic, oh, look at this basic paint job. No, they want super detail, which I don't blame them. But take someone with a lot more practice and a lot more skill to actually produce something good. So I'm fine with not as much detailing. Right there. See that? See that joint? Boom. Nailed it. Get a little better job on that. There we are. So many little body vents. It's like the muscles ripping right on through. There we go. Alright. Vonrain Leaper 1 complete. With the Bugman's Club. We still have ways to go. We still have to get the red on, the purple on, and the black on for the contrast. And I think... I don't remember what eye color Tyranids are supposed to have. Let me go check real quick. I'll do that on my break, actually. Let's move you to the side. You're the last of those. And we'll move you out of the way. There we go. Get in there. Get in the joint. Get a little more of the layer there. Get that joint. Get in there with that. That's it. There we go. Ooh, that's a bit much on the brush, but that's okay. Use it to kind of let it flow into the crevasse. There we go. And then we'll layer that. Get the Bugman's Glow on the underside here, because we're going to paint that with the red on that side. And again, we're going to hit the feet up with black and probably bits of the top part of... Oop. Got a little too hasty there. But yeah, we'll hit the feet, claws, tail tops, and blade tops here with a bit of black. It's amazing how many joints these little bugs have. Whoop. There we go. Oh, you can kind of see my mane of hair. I need to tame that, which for the last, shoot, 10, 11 years? Yeah, the last 11 years, I have had nothing, no luck in taming my mane. So we'll just pull it back for now. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There we are. All right. Dabby dab dab. Dab. All right. A little more there. And a little bit on this side here. That bit of joint. There we are. All right. It's another Vulnerine Leaper. Ready for the next layer once it dries. This one. Oh, I forgot. I need a little more purple. Good thing I have some. Ready to go. For now, though, we're focusing on joints in Bugman's Glow. There we go. That's it. Looking very pretty now. More detailed. And once we add the magical shading and contrast, it's going to come out nicely. And we'll add a little more touch up there. That way it's not so splotchy. Not a perfect painter, not even a great painter, but I'm working on it. I'm working on making fewer mistakes. And you can tell. Tyranids, though, they are the bane of my painting existence. They have been one of the most difficult sets of models to paint. The Space Marines, the Tau, those guys, those aren't bad at all. Those are actually kind of easy with their big plates and just easy to loop, drop some paint down nice and evenly, boom. Tyranids, though, they have a lot of nooks, a lot of crannies, a lot of little spots that you have to get just right, otherwise it looks weird. There we are. And a little bit there. Come on. Come on. Come on. That's it. That's it. There we go. Get around the blade joint there. The back side of his leg on this end. And we'll start down. Oop, we'll add just a little bit more there. There we go. All right. One more. That's okay. That's all right, baby. All right. Okay. Last little bit of Bugman's Glow for the blade itself. We'll take just a tiny dab of Nagaroth Night purple to touch up a couple spots here. Oh, thank you for joining me. We're just painting some Tyranid models right now. Getting their base layer, getting a couple of their base layers touched up. namely the little tail spikes here, tail plate. And then we're going to set him down, go back to our winged prime, and start getting into further details. I'm going to be doing a red on the browned blade spits and tops of the blades there, just to give them a little more definition. I'm also going to do, I think, red on parts of the mouth bit there. And finally, I need to choose an eye color for them. I'll just do red for those as well. There we are. Alright. Set the now drying Von Ryan Leapers over here. And put our prime here back onto the... There we are. Alright. Now, let's get some red on. Shake up this contrast. And we'll add the black after this layer. There we are. I'm just gonna briefly go try and thin it down a little more over the actual blade edges, just to give it some nice, albeit small, contrast compared to the rest of the Tyranid. Kind of a blood soaking. Get the tip, just the tip. There we are. Once that's dry, I'm hoping that it's thin enough that you can actually see the Bugman's glow from underneath. There we go. We'll add a layer of black over the top of the red on the tops of the blade. Bladed edge. There we are. So yeah, that just looks like he just soaked his claw in Space Marine blood. I didn't get that mold line off. Oh well. We'll make it, does make it a little more challenging for the paint. Alright. Now, he does have a few more spots, but I'm not going to cover those. Instead, I'm going to try and get in there with the eyes. Oops. Well, that's okay. Eyes are terrible for me. Yeah. This is why I don't do eyes normally. Alright. That's it for his claws. Do I want to hit the little claws with a little bit of red? Maybe on the other side, underside, and then we'll top off with black over the claws. Although I'm going to use the smaller brush on those bits. Red has an annoying attribute about it that I don't really like too much. It's easily stainable, as in it stains way too easily. God, I love contrast paint. It goes on so smoothly. And yeah, you can't make it is meant to be more of a, oop, didn't get that part. That's okay. That's where we're going back over. There we are. And we'll get the underside of the blade here. That's it. There we go. We'll get a little bit of his claw. We'll just do the tips of the claws in black on the on his wings. Ah, he has so many spikes. Again, Tyranids, one of the most difficult for me to paint because of just how many extra little bits there are. With the shading, that should help cut down on the red a bit. Gotta do weird, funky ways of painting sometimes. But the major blade bits and the hooves are going to be black. Yeah, let's go ahead and go for red on all the claw bits. There we go. Alright, alright. I'm still fairly new at Warhammer, so I'm also still very new on all the lore. I do know that you have the Inari, which are trying in a weird way to defeat the the chaos god of, well, excess, through summoning one of their own gods, which I'm not sure is going to work out, because yeah, that sounds that might end very badly. As for other Eldari, I mean, I like space elves, but something about the Eldar and Warhammer seem, I don't know, not my cuppa. Get that claw. There we are. And the final claw. I don't mind playing them though. They're just harder to learn, and I think it's pretty cool that they and the Necrons are kind of mortal enemies, because they both fought in the War for Heaven. Yeah. Anyway, red claws down. Black will be next. Just give me a second to stretch. There we are. Now, Von Rayen Leapers. Oh, right, I gotta get the gray on him. On his little bit there. Actually, yeah. I think I want to do these little bits in red. I'll do that in red and this in red. Nice and thin down. Just to kind of differentiate a little bit. There we go. Get a little more red there. Get your tail claw. Get your toe claws. Get your elbow claw there, and your elbow claw there. And your little elbow claw there. You have 3 joints in your arms. Oh, in specific arms. You have your shoulder, your... Yeah, it makes sense actually. What am I saying? Alright. Let's get in here. Get this claw prettied up. There we are. Get this last one here. There we go. Should I get the, I wonder, should I get the rest of his little face tentacles that color? I'm thinking actually no, honestly, because if I tried to do that, it would throw everything off. So just the spiky bit tentacle face stuff for now is red, and everything else would get the Magos purple. There we are. Now, my least favorite part. Let's get the eyes. I can do this. You. It'll be a little more subtle of a red, admittedly. But that's okay. Why do you have like 3 pairs of eyes? Then again, it's probably your mutation. That's what it is. Haha. All right. Von Leaper. Next step complete. Yeah, no, that's right. Next Von Leaper. Oop. Once we get the red on, well, we'll see where we're at, actually. Once we get the red on, though, I'm going to get the black next over key points of the models. Namely the hooves and the what other part am I thinking of? The hooves and the backs of some of their claws. I'm actually going to leave that alone because I kind of like the coloration there. A little more red. There we are. So that way it's distinguishing, like those are shredding claws rather than just slicing claws. And like I said, I'm going to go over some of these with a little bit thicker layer of purple, Magos purple. There we are. Get the rest of that taken care of. All right. And yeah, there we are. Last little bit of claw here for this guy. Top of that. That. Come on. There we are. I love contrast paints so much. They are, as a new painter, they have saved me a lot of time and headaches. Because at first, you know, that other, the Infernus Marine Squad I painted a couple of weeks ago, I did the traditional method of 3 base layer blue and then getting the other colors on it. Tyranids, I did the Wraithbone white in the 3 base layer colors. Those were, how to put it, those were a painful process because it took so long to paint. But contrast really changed the game here for me. They dye, they do a good job with the dyeing, and the slap chop method has been a beautiful little lifesaver for me. Scooch that a little over. Oop. Oh, well, you're mostly dry. We'll get that. Oh, I missed a spot on something there, so I'll have to go back. Yeah, I missed a couple of joints. That's fine. We'll go back over with the Bugman's Glow before we continue with the black. Just to help carry that along. And then I'll get that little bit there. And the shading's going to really help out. That's just gonna smooth the operation down a little bit. Darken some of these brighter colors to give it to make sure we get the grim dark vibe we aim for when we paint Warhammer. Because it's a grim dark future out there, folks. Despite all that, I'm hoping, I'm praying that even in all the darkness, you find your light. You find a light that keeps you going and shines on as you travel a dark world. Because we all need some light in our lives. We all need love, companionship, friendship. We're just humans trying to make it in a crazy world with other humans. So show some grace and love. But don't tolerate hateful people. That's counterproductive. If you tolerate hate, then that hatred becomes intolerant of you. Which is why I'm a top player. Alright, we're going to take a bit of the Bugman's Glow real quick. Touch up a few spots that I missed. This knee joint here is an example. A couple of smaller spots here that I want to just briefly fill in. Oop. There we go. Alright, I think I got it all this time. Let's move on to Black Legion contrast. This is one that I go through a lot. I won't deny. Black Legion is one of my favorites because of how thick and dark it is, and yet it's a contrast, so it's thinned down and semi-transparent. I used it to make some pretty cool effects of like a black armor with almost highlighted coloration on the edges. It's one of my favorite ways to actually paint a dark armor. But for our little Bugman here, we're just painting over key points. Yep, that's nice and dry. Yep. Painting over key points that I mentioned, the tops of blades. This, and the hooves. Oh shoot, I forgot to do the eyes on the other two. I'll come back to those before I go on break. Beautifully done. Now, because of how thick I'm laying down the black on the tips here, the edge, top edge, it's going to be difficult to see the red kind of shining underneath, but that's fine. We're looking less at the tips and more at just the overall effect. You know what? I'm going to do the full wing tips in black here as well. That way, it has a red underglow. But the blades, I'm going to keep that red edge there, which will darken when we paint them, paint in the, or add in the shading. Which we're going to do after break, because I want to let these guys dry. So I'm going to get as much of these on here as I can before I go on my break. There we go. Yes. Yes. Contrast paints are my favorite for a reason. Get that one. So many little claw bits. So many little headaches. We'll do the back edge of his head here in the black. Because that's a weapon right there. That is a straight up dagger on his head. Look at that thing. Look at that. That's just a little dagger on his head. Or maybe a sword, considering how scale, like, normal human. I'm gonna eat you for breakfast, Cleric. Who's gonna be your healer now? I'm joking. This guy would probably actually eat the fighter first, because the fighter would jump in and start stabbing it. I wouldn't use these as a demon, but definitely a... well, not alien, but definitely a monster that has been evolved to hunt down humans and well, not just humans, but adventurers. That would be a fun story to tell. Claws and fang and blade. Natural weapons. Alright. Now we're going to let... oh. No, yep. Wait. Get in there with that. We want the red underglow there. And let's see if I can't do this gently. There we go. Just a little mini detail. Alright, you. Black tips. Perfect. Next up. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move you with the others, and we're going to move you right over here. You get moved over here for now. We'll start with you. Oh, I missed a red. Oh well. They're all going back over with the black anyway. I think what I'll do is I'll paint that black and add a very thinned... I forgot the hooves. I forgot the freaking hooves, man. That's okay. Oop, a little thick there, but that's okay too. So, I need to pick you back up, sir. Because I forgot one of your most important bits. The hooves are black. Get in there. Haha! My window. At least they provided a little window to get into this part here. Otherwise, it would be darn near impossible. Yeah. He only has one. That's weird. Yeah, this was a push fit model, which, if you look at the underside there, he has one peg, and the 50mm bases came with two, so it's kind of interesting to see. All right, let's finish these guys. Main colorations, main layers on, and then we'll come back and we will get. We'll start with the contrast, so that way we can get the shading done almost right after. Thank you again for joining me. I know I am not as talkative as I usually am, but again, that's because I'm trying to focus on making sure I get all the little details right. Tyranids always gave me the headache of that. So thank you for joining me on this little painting chat. If you have any topics you want to talk about, if you have you just want to shoot the breeze, feel free to just message me in the chat. There we are. Alright. Now this is where the tricky part is, because I want to just lightly get... There we are. There we go. Ooh, you see how the contrast layer there of the black is creating those highlights? That's the exact thing I want to look out for. I'll pull out the red once I'm finished getting the blacks on these guys for the other two models here and get their fangs taken care of. So I'm going to keep that one, their mouth fangs, red, because I like the idea of a bloody mouth. Well, that's the curse of living next to a busy road. You get people that just don't care about the residencies that they're driving by. Okay, who the heck is street racing on my street? Like, seriously. There's no need for that, people. And I think that's... Oh. Haha! I missed one. Boop. There we go. Loop, loop, loop. Ah! How did I miss the backside of you? Well, I fixed it. Alright, Mr. Leaper. You'll sit there and you'll dry and you'll like it. Okay. Bloody. I'm gonna start calling those the armpit claws just because of. Oop. That one was supposed to be red. Oh well. But just because how bloody difficult they can be to paint. Beautiful. There we go. Get your hoof here. Get the underside of the hoof. Get the ankle claw. And the tail. other claw here. And your hoof, I think, is the last bit I need to... Oh. Your elbow claw there. There we are. That model is a little bit of a pain, isn't it? Alright. Get the black off for a moment, so that way we can get the red eyes on this one and the last one. Shoot. Yeah, might as well just go for it. Get the red on him. Not the best job. That's my fault. But eyes have always been the banes of my existence. So if you have any suggestion on painting eyes, I'm all ears. That sounds weird, but yeah. I'm happy to hear tips and tricks for getting eyes painted nice and proper. Little mutant eyeballs. There we are. Now, before I get to him, I have one last bit of black that I forgot to paint, that I overlooked. Nope, nope, what am I doing? Put them back on. Close that, and get the black. There we are. Forgot to get your elbow claws, sir. There we are. And like I said, I'm going to take about a 10-15 minute break here once I finish getting this on, just to give these models a nice long minute to dry off, so that way we're not, trying to paint over wet paint. You don't want to do that unless you're trying to go for a specific effect, like namely painting with contrast on making like heat effects. There was somebody that I saw that did a wonderful job doing a heat color change from their flamer. It's one of the coolest little things I've seen this week. Or like what I just did with my bursting flame, the glow from the chemical reaction of a jetpack turning into smoke. Which, if you're making that much smoke, then there might be a problem. However, they make amazing stands, so I'm not going to complain too much for realisticness. Though, actually, one thing I could try and do with those is have a blue glow to represent the blue hot jet coming out. Ideas. Ideas. Maybe we'll do that on the next paint and chat. Alright, let's get in there. Get these layers on. Come on, a little more black, thank you. And we're gonna keep that. Oh, a little thicker than I'd like, but what can you do sometimes? All right, almost done. Just need to finish painting the claw here. Blade bit there. Hoof. And then we'll be ready for shading once we get the other hoof painted. There we go. All right. And here we have 3 Von Ryan Leapers and a Winged Tyranid Prime ready for shading. We'll take care of that after the break. Thank you again for joining me today. It's been an absolute blast. We'll set aside these for now. We'll have purple contrast. So that way we can get all the little bits and bobs covered in a very thin purple, except for specific areas where I do want to go a little darker. And good old Agrex Earthshade to shade the whole model. For now, it is my break time. I shall see you in about 10-15 minutes. I'll be back when they are nice and dry and ready to paint again. See you then. Alright, let me get this loaded. There we go. And we're back. Double check, make sure everything's nice and dry. Yes. Nice dry bug man. Alright. We're actually going to use a slightly larger brush to get this purple coverage. We're not going to go too crazy with it either, because we want some parts to be a little less purple than others. There we are. And get the brush nice and moist, ready to go. Alright, shove you guys off to the side for now. Alright, we are going to go a little thicker over the already purple parts, just to reinforce it and get all those nooks and crannies. There we are. And we'll lightly go over the rest of the model with this purple. And once that's dried off, we'll go over all of it in a nice Agrax earth shade. Alright, we're going to have to... Oop, a little too thick on the body there. But that's okay. Ooh, yes. Yes. Okay. Get that thin down there. There we are. Again, I freaking love contrast paints, just because of how nice it is to get all those nice little nooks and crannies, and by having a much thinner layer of the purple, I said much thinner, darn it. There we are. It will allow that more natural color underneath to kind of shine through. Yeah, this guy definitely looks more like a gene stealer than one born of normal biomass. Okay, pick up some of those recessed areas. Ooh, don't want to let that stain too much. Get in there and pick up a lot of that excess purple. There we go. What the contrast does as well, I want to personally note, is it gives more, not just more, but better general coverage than other paints. Look at that. See that? We'll add a little thicker layer to their little bits on the bottoms. Like that. Yeah, that's what we want to see. We just want a hint of purple over the skin, and we'll add the earth shade over other bits. Alright, let's get in there. There we go. Nice alien purples. That's it, that's it. We got this. Haha. So, if you're watching from the actual live stream, feel free to pop into the chat there, because I have an interesting question for you. I'm doing Baldur's Gate 3 run. Nothing too fancy, just, you know, doing a casual playthrough, because I'm a filthy casual. How should I approach the goblin camp? Full send? Attack everything? Kill all the bad guys? Move on with my life? Or should I try and be a little more subtle? Try and get, you know... Okay, a little thicker there than I'd like, but... curses. It happens. Okay, we're gonna dry that off, but yeah. Should I go full sin? Should I just take everything on? Or should I just... Oop, we'll get in there. Get all those little recesses and spread the love. Come on. Thin it out. There we go. You don't want it too dark. Because I personally have a habit of trying to go in diplomatically, failing diplomat, and just murder hobo my way through everything. Light touch there. Yeah, that's what I like to see. We'll go back with the Agrax Earth Shade and do kind of the same thing, but target more specific recesses. Come on. Get in there. That's it. We'll add a little more to this spot here. And a little more to down here. There we go. What do you think? Full send on the goblin camp, or just do my best and pray that the dice gods are on my side on my rolls and negotiate my way in before killing the leader sneakily? If you're watching from YouTube, feel free to leave a comment on that one. I want to see where this goes. Alright. Thick layer of purple there, so that way I can... Oop. Ah! We just want to stain it. We don't want to... There we go. That's it, that's it. That's what we're looking for. Okay. Pick up all this excess purple. Ah, yeah. There we go. That's more of the purple I'm looking for. Okay, we're gonna pick up a little more, put it up on here. And spread the freaking love. And I'm taking a little more time doing the contrast than I normally would, because we're not using the contrast to actually color do a base laying color. We're using the contrast as more of a shading technique. That way, it's just staining the colors, not painting the colors on. Although with that Bugman's glow right there, I needed to add a little more. Alright, stretch it out. And yeah, the other reason why I am taking a little extra time on getting this contrast on is so that way I can actually let it dry before I throw on the shade. Before I throw shade. Did I get your face? Yeah, I got your face. Pick up any excesses. And spread the love. There we go. Quiet phone. I'm busy. People trying to talk to me while I'm busy painting. Story of my life. Busy trying to do something and get interrupted by life. But they can wait. I'm doing something fun for myself. Painting minis. If I go full send, I at least have the mod that lets me just go full send, actually. Because that's always fun. Ooh, there we go. Now, let's stain that a little better. Get around the ankle bits. I like how purple it looks. I'm liking that look a lot better. Nope. Spread a little more purple into the joint there. There we go. And we're down to the last of the Von Ryan Leapers. Get the carapace up here. And we'll go ahead and do... There we are. You also have a blade for a head. What the heck? I guess when your whole point is to consume biomass, then it makes sense that your head would just be a blade and a mouth. Nom nom. Nom 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 nom. I will, once I've finished getting the Earthshade on, I will actually pull out my other Von Ryan Leapers that I have. Get that nice and purplified. And do a little comparison, because I'm kind of curious compared to my original painting of these guys, because this is the second set that I've gotten. And I just want to see how well I've done, like I did with the Terminator Captain. Now, the biggest difference is the Terminator Captain I painted in my own colors, so it's a little harder to tell how well I've done using the painting techniques I've learned and picked up. But with the Von Ryan Leapers, the Tyranids in general, you can actually see my progress. I'm just doing that one in a base purple kind of thing, because the extra little detail, that's not as important to me. Get a little more on here. Thicker coverage. There we go. The leg and his hoof that is weirdly hovering. Get in there. Get all the little details. Suppose I could have done a contrast layering on. Do it thicker a little bit on that blade there. There we go. Now we're not just staining the base there. We're actually trying to color that, so that's why it's a much thicker layer. Showing that it's consuming the biomass and converting it to more Tyranid hive. Darken the purple tendrils a little more. do the same over here. Oh. Look. There we are. Kind of showing off how it's not exactly a nice dude. Okay. There we are. Okay. So another Von Ryan Leaper down. When that dries. Is that all three of them? Well, shoot. Let me add a little bit more to his mouth bits. Because we want those to actually be a bit more purpley. There we are. And this is part of the reason why it's going to take a while to dry. Alright, we're down to one last Tyranid to get this Magos purple on. And that's going to be this guy. Come on. Line up. There we go. We're going to wet the paint brush. Shake this up a little more. And then just for flavor's sake, while we let these guys finish drying, before I throw on the Earth Shade, I'll grab the other Von Ryan Leaper in Wing Prime, do a comparison there, and if they're still not dry, which these I did lay a few areas pretty thick on, we're going to go back over this guy. Not this guy. We're going to go back over this guy here. His jetpack plume with a bit more gray and white near the top. Alright, first, let's give this guy a proper purpling. Start up here with the blade head. Bend it down a little more. Oop. Sorry, Von Ryan Leaper. Ah! I'm just gonna move you. 3. Just out of the screen view. And we'll continue getting into the nook and cranny. Just lightly staining the arms. Grab a little more purple to go down the back here. That way, it's not as predominant. There we go. Get that. There we are. Get the joint. And start getting the underwing bit. A little more on the shoulder pad here. Just to darken that up. And a little more on there. Get your leg bits here. Contrast and shading really does a lot of heavy lifting. Makes it really notable. Kind of helps give more depth too. Come on. I'll have to go back in with the purple to get the back of the head here. Pick up some of that. We'll just dip it right on in there. There we go. Oop. Oh. Uh-oh. That's fine. That's fine. We'll just spread the love. Pick up a little bit more of that. Spread some more of the love. Again, we're not looking to actually curses. We're not actually looking to paint the color purple on. We're looking to stain with purple. Ah, shoot. We'll just pick up the excess. That's fine. May have gone a little too heavy there, but that happens on occasion. You pick up the excess and you spread the love and move on to the next part. Now we get the rest of the wing, inner wing here. Again, with that though, with the inner wings, I won't mind too much how much the purple gets in there. I'll just add another layer of darkness. There we go. Such a thin purple too. Pick up some of this. Pick up some of the excess across various parts to spread around on the underside of the wing, because you can't really see much of the underside of the wing, but it's still good to get as much of the color on as you can. There we are. Look at our little alien bug that wants to eat you. I twitched. Just a little more purple there, so that way we can spread on the inner side here. Pick up some of that excess so we can spread it out. There we go. I kind of do want the blades a little more purple. And then we'll apply the earth shade to the claws and areas of Bugman's glow. Pick up some of this excess purple. There we are. All right. We'll let him dry. And pray that the next batch of Tyranids that I end up getting will be a lot easier to paint. So let me go grab something real quick. I just want to show it off. Do a quick comparison. Alright, where are you, Homeland? Because let's turn out. There's Prime. Where is the beaver? I have way too many termagants. Oh, here you are. Alright. I'm going to set them down side by side just to kind of see. here's the here's the new Prime, and here's the old one. I went a slightly different direction on Mr. Prime here. That's okay. Didn't come out how I'd hoped in the initial, but the second run, I might actually use them in my proper combat patrols. When that dries off, it should look pretty good. Yep. I didn't secure that properly. There we go. Alright. I never painted his base. Well, that's fine. I'll fix that next time. But yeah. Here is a comparison of first gen versus recent gen. Got a lot better coverage, I will admit. That does look horrifying. I'm adding a little bit more detail on the newer models, so that just shows how much I have improved. One thing I don't like about the one-round leapers is how easy it is to just accidentally knock off limbs. But yeah, that's my comparison. We'll get the Earthshade over specific aspects of these Tyranids. How to put away those two. We'll get the Earthshade actually on the Bugman's Glow parts and the foot bits, because that's what I want to do. Oh, just need to let them finish drying. If you have a suggestion of a game to see me do on the random game night, actually, before that, I have a conundrum. This week is already going to be set in stone. I'm doing the Dawn of War 3 on Thursday. I'm considering, not sure if I'm actually going to do it, but I'm considering switching to having 3 nights in a row of games. So Monday night would be Demon Souls. Hopefully I'll get that finished. And then get that dealt with and over with. I love that. I'm enjoying that game. It's definitely not one of my favorites of the Soulsborne games, but I might do a new game plus on that on a future stream. Kind of try and do a marathon run of that. Next week I might do Tuesday Baldur's Gate 3. Wednesday's the random game night, and then Thursday we'll be doing a shorter paint and chat. We usually do about 2.5 hours anyway on these paint and chats. But if I switch it to Thursday, I can get off before Critical Role begins their game. So we'll see about that. We'll see where that leads to. Okay, these guys still need just a little bit more time to finish drying. I did go a little thick on their bases. That's okay. They need a little more time. So we'll take this Corax white here, thin it down a little. I know I have that brush, but I just don't remember where I put it. No. Are you it? Yes, you are. Haha. We're going to take this little brush here. And we're going to go ahead and do a little dry brushing on that. Ooh, that needs a little more shaking. Yeah, I think we'll do the Earthshade over only specific parts like the claws and the where I set down the Bugman's glow. That contrast really did some heavy lifting. And that's the point of the contrast. There we go. Look at that. Look at that consistency. Nice and mixed. So we'll go ahead and drop that down. Just a little bit to thin it down. There we are. There we go. And we're just gonna lightly hit the edges here. We don't want to drown out the color underneath. We just want to create the effect of a kind of smokiness. And we'll get a slightly darker gray. We want the effect of a smoke come billowing out. Just a teeny bit more. Oop, a little too much. But we want that to make it look like there's smoke coming out rather than that bright coloration. Thin that down a little. Once it dries, hopefully it'll be doing the effect that I want. And we'll get a slightly darker shade to hit the lower parts and kind of layer it over. I think the next batch, set, whatever, is going to be a blue glow coming from the jets. So we get the darker gray out now, slightly darker, to hit up that midsection. Now, I still have a little bit of work to do on these guys. Just some specific colors I want to throw on there, to get, because that's solid. That's a solid green. So we're going to add a little detailing to some of the bits and bobs just to differentiate. And we'll add just a touch of water. Okay, might need a little more actual paint there. There we are. Thin it down some. There we go. Create a nice little gradients. Gradients. Anyway. Alright. There we go. Yeah, come here, you. Just a little bit more. There we are. There we go. Just because I want to have it look more like smoke coming out rather than just a jet of color. along nicely, actually. A little more of this Celestine Gray. And I'll go over the base or base parts with another color. There we go. Probably a bit more black in some areas, but what do we think? Let that dry. Hopefully you still have some coloration come through. Let's check up on our Von Ryan Leapers and Winged Prime. See how dry they are. Okay, the Prime's still a little moist. But the parts that I want to get the Bugman's glow, I think I can work around. Let's go ahead and start with this one here. Scooch, 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 scooch. And finally, is the final stage of the paint and chat. Shaka, shaka, shaka. Get nice and shaken, not stirred. Rude. Come on. Stay up. Good. We're actually going to take a slightly smaller brush. Come on now. Actually, no. We're going to take one that's just a little bit smaller. We're going to take the Citadel starter brush I have. Come on. We'll take the other Citadel brush then. Whoop, 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 whoop. There we go. Alright, you. Stay open. I have need. We're just going to go ahead and do this. Yeah. We'll probably go back over some of the base area there. But let's get this blade a nice Bugman's glow layer. Not Bugman's glow. Agrax Earthshade. Catch up, Alexi. Catch up, Astral. There we are. Get into some of the joints here as well, just to darken that up. Oops. Maybe I should have gone in with the finer detail brush. Ha! Huh. I'll probably switch it actually to the when I get to that point. But we want to use the Bugman's glow or the Earth Shade. Yeah, we'll switch it now actually because those are very fine details I'm trying to get into. But if we get a number of the joints with Earth Shade, you'll create a nice brown. There we are. We'll just go over here, give it a little more shading. Didn't I tell you to quit that? Frickin' paint pot. Now, I like these paint pots. They make it nice and easy to kind of use less paint for me. However, I admit that for like base colors and stuff, I may want to switch to like Army Paint or Vallejo. So we'll have to see where we're at for the future. Go ahead and give that a a little bit there. That way I can get in here. Oop. Stop shaking, arm. There we are. And more of the joint there. There we go. And that is one Von Ryan leaper nearly complete. Let's get a little more there. A little bit on the joint there. In here. There we go. Look at him. And he's so cute. And he's such a cute, ugly, cute evil murder bug. Alright. That one's done for now. Let's move on. Get some more earth shade flowing. Most models I like using Nuln oil for good reason. It's a neutral kind of black color, but Tyranids. A little bit of contrast and earth shade goes a long way. And with the contrast paint, it got into all the recesses I wanted. But the shade really helps define some of those colors. And that earthy tone makes it look more imposing of a bug warrior. Instead of just a gray coloration, it's a nice brown, more organic looking, as people would say. Okay, there's still quite a bit of contrast in the joint. That's okay. That joint can be nice and dark. We'll just work around it. We're just defining areas that have already been colored in. Ooh, I don't think I got the mouth on the other one, but that's okay. We'll just go ahead and go back over in a moment. There we are. There we go. You want to get those joints properly defined, otherwise it's just going to look weird. Whoop. Zoop. Zoop. Alright. Von Ryan Leaper number 2. Shaded. Going back to number 1 to get better coverage on the mouth bit. Oops. He wasn't completely dry, but that happens. Clear off some of the paint here. And we'll get the little mouth bit there. There we go. Now we're not going to get the earth shade in the bent section here. Well, actually, we are. Because that is... Oh dear. Oh no. Drop some there, drop some there. Drop some here. And then spread the love. There we go. It's amazing, through trial and error, what we have discovered we can do with all kinds of stuff. Art, some might say, is a science. less measurable than other sciences, I'll admit. But still a science, in my humble opinion. Because it takes experimentation. It takes getting proper results. It takes, you know, those kind of things. There we are. We'll go over a little heavily here. We'll just pick up from there. Oop. Get in the little creases and joints. Pick up the excess. Haha! I missed a spot over here. Did I already get you? Okay, now that I've confirmed I've gotten you. And get the underside, get there. Get a little bit of that. Okay. Okay. Get the ankle joint here with a little more earth shade. There we go. Back leg, ankle joint. Got your little face tendrils already. All right. That's another leaper down. 3 leapers. With definition and pretty good coverage. And now to the big man himself, the winged Tyranid Prime. Funnily enough, we started with him and we're going to end with him. So, let's get started, shall we? Come on. There we go. Nice coverage on all your little wing bits and joint bits. Okay, we'll get the details first and then we'll go in with a slightly bigger brush to handle covering the bigger bits. Because this guy has a lot of little joints and stuff, but those giant wings, so. And that big blade here. Although I can just kind of take the excess and drop it off here on the outer wing. There we go. Get the biggest amount off of everything. There we are. Get it off, a large amount off the brush and spread the love through the other little bits here. Get in there, you. A little more earth shade. Okay. Whoop. There we go. Get that joint. Get the blade itself. Beautiful. Alright, we got most of the joints done on that side. Let's get back in here. Whoop. Zoop. Using such a tiny brush means having to redip our brush every now and then, and more often. That's okay. We're trying, we're learning, we're growing. I know I'm learning a lot each time I paint. There we go. Alright. All that's left are his wings. this brush here. And we'll get your wings done, sir. And then you'll be ready for combat. Maybe not tournament battle ready, because I didn't want to do your basing yet. And I find basing is a choice. What I want to do though is get some of the more natural kind of stone and dust, gravel kind of stuff, dirt, and get that put on. I made a pretty cool moss effect once for a couple pieces of terrain ruins, where basically it was sand is what it was. I took that I just put spread a little glue onto the bottom of the terrain, poured some of that sand onto the terrain piece where the glue was, and then yeah, once dried, it kind of made a really cool effect, kind of a more gritty effect, and it went up to the side a little, which was a mistake on my part, but turned out to be a happy little mistake, as they say, because what ended up happening is I painted over the gravel bit, and well, let me pull it out. Actually, I think I have it more readily available than I remember. No, that's not it there. Yeah, it might not. No, I left it in the other room. That's fine. So I painted it over a green color, and instead of making like a alien green type of moss or alien green kind of dirt, it was very mossy, and I really enjoyed it. All right. With that, why am I still on intermission? Son of a biscuit. Hold on a moment. I don't know what's going on with my stream. Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just my moderation thing here is being dumb. No matter. Yeah, my Tyranid Prime, Von Ryan Leapers. They are now, at least in my consideration, complete. If you enjoyed this, do follow along here on Twitch. I try and do one every week, and I'll be painting up some more models. I have been printing models like crazy, so you might get a chance to see more of these guys get painted up. I want to finish these guys off camera because I'm testing colors. And I like how this one came out. I did a layer of pull out my colors here. Got it? No. Here it is. Nope. Not that blue. Not that blue. Not that blue. Oh, that blue. So I laid down a layer of this green and a layer of this blue over the green once the green dried. And that is what made this pretty cool effect. And I'm thinking I'm going to try that, but with this kind of color over it. The Pterodon turquoise. See where that gets me. So yeah, join me again next week as I paint the rest of my Assault Intercessor squad, and possibly come here, you. My Chaplain proxy. And a Librarian proxy. Thank you again so much for watching. Follow me here on Twitch if you're watching here, or if you're watching from YouTube, give me a subscribe. And yeah, videos get uploaded immediately after the stream, so should be here any second. Thank you for watching. Your support means a lot. And join me tomorrow for Baldur's Gate 3. See you next time.